It looks like about 30 viewers have joined us, so welcome everyone. You are sitting in for Housing Beyond the First Year webinar. My name is Kristen Laparco, and I'm the Associate Director of Residential and Event Services. Myself and my team over in Residential and Event Services oversee multiple things, and one of them is housing contracts. So what we've done today is pull together a panel of students that are really going to walk you through their area of expertise, and they're going to give you a brief overview of each of their areas to kind of give you an idea of what your housing options are for next year as a rising sophomore, because you're a current first year student. At the end, kind of after everyone speaks, we'll talk a little bit more about timeline of the on-campus housing application process, and we do have also a Q&A, and we also have we have a webinar chat here, so I'll be doing my best to monitor the Q&As and the chat. So if at any point you do have a question or you want to chat, know that we'll be monitoring that and we'll get to you as quickly as we can. So thanks for joining us. So then I think we're going to go ahead and go right into the webinar here. So we've talked a little bit about today's agenda, and these are our panelists, so you can get a feel for who will be speaking to you. Why don't we start with you in the College Town residence halls?
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen. Hi, I'm Chino. I'm a residential advisor in Cascadilla Hall, I guess College Town South Campus community. And I've lived here since my sophomore year of Cornell. So I've been here, this is my third year in a College Town community. As you can see, we have four residential places under our jurisdiction. Cascadilla Hall, 1112 Edgemore, Sheldon Court, and Schuyler House. We actually just had another residential hall added to our roster, which is called 13 South. Cascadilla Hall usually has, it's an upperclassman living area, sophomores and above. Perks is that it's close to the engineering quad and it's in College Town, so it's close to everything that's happening in College Town. Same thing with Sheldon Court and 1112 Edgemore. Schuyler House, unfortunately, is a bit further down. It's almost near the Commons. And I guess a perk of that is that I think it comes with a free bus pass. So yes, you're far away, but you have a free bus pass. You can get around easily. I like living here. Like I said, it's my third year here. I have no complaints. The rooms, yeah, exactly. These are some examples of the building, pictures of the buildings. Yeah. If there are any questions, just put them in the chat and put Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer them afterwards.
Great, thank you.
So hi, my name's Allison. I'm an RA in the Ecology House, and I'm going to talk a little bit about program houses. So they're kind of like a regular freshman dorm, except they're all co-ed and they're freshman through senior year, and they're really close-knit communities all based around a singular theme. So as you can see on the slide here, there are 8 program houses on North Campus, and I'm just going to go briefly through them and give you a little description of each. So Oguego is the American Indian house on campus. It's pretty small, and they do a lot of work with the American Indian and Indigenous Studies program, but you don't have to be part of that program to apply. The Ecology House is the one I live in. I've lived here for 4 years. I'm a big fan of program houses. It's for any student from any major who's interested in the natural world, and we get to have pets. There's another perk about that.
But not cats and dogs.
No cats and dogs, no ferrets, and nothing venomous, so it's okay. The Holland International Living Center has its roots in celebrating the international experience and education of all people. So it's mainly geared towards residents who are not originally from America, but again, anyone can live there. You don't have to be an international student. And it's the only program house that stays open over winter break, which is nice. So that way, if you are international, you don't have to pay for an expensive plane ticket to go home. Jam, just about music, as you can probably guess from the name, is for all the music lovers out there, whether you're into composition or playing or anything like that. They have a lot of showcases and rooms to practice in. So it's a really good group for all you music lovers out there. Then the Latino Living Center, as you can probably guess, focuses on Latin diaspora on campus. But again, you don't have to be Latinx to actually live in the house. Anyone can apply to live. McClue is the Multicultural Living Learning Unit, and it's a community that focuses on diversity in all forms, including race, gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, physical ability, religion, and more. Risley, the one that looks like a castle, is the only program house to have its own dining hall. So that's fun, you don't have to walk outside in the snow. And they focus on promoting the creative and performing arts in the Cornell and Ithaca communities. And they have, I believe, the oldest program house on campus. They have a lot of fun traditions, like Rocky Horror every fall, and then the Harry Potter night every spring. So I encourage you to go check those out. They're open to anyone. You don't have to live in Risley to attend. And then last but certainly not least is Ujima. Ujima Residential College celebrates the anyone of the Black diaspora on campus, so African American, Caribbean, and Caribbean students. And if you want to learn more about them, I was asked to mention that you can attend Ujima's Sunday evening Unity program at 7 p.m. You meet the residents and the RAs and the RHs. So if you have any questions about how program houses work or any particular one, just shoot me a question in the Q&A and I'll try to answer it for you. These are various program houses.
Great. Thank you, Allison.
All right. Hello, everybody. I am Hezekiah Thompson. I'm representing West Campus and the Language House. I'm currently a senior in civil engineering, and I lived in the Language House last year, and I currently, right now, as a senior, live in North Baker, one of our West Campus dorms. So right now, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Language House right now, then talk to you about West Campus. So Language House is actually one of the 9 program houses in Cornell, but the only one on West Campus. The Language House's goal is to promote a supportive and congenial environment for language immersion, targeting intermediate language learners. Either via 1 year's worth of classes here at Cornell or any other college, or some equivalent language experience. The Language House is made up of 5 language sections, which cycle every year depending on the popularity of that language, this year being Arabic, French, German, Japanese, and Spanish. It is run by the Language House Director and the Resident Language Fellows, which are assigned to each section, who facilitate each language section. All students are required to at least 3 language section meals and 1 conversation hour each week in the Resource Center to kind of prep your language conversational skills. Each month we celebrate 1 language and do some sort of celebration for that language in each month. And it was a lot of fun. When I was in it last year, I was in the Mandarin section. It's a really fun social experience, experiencing other cultures, experiencing different cultures around the world, different people around the world, all the way from Egypt and China. And really, even my roommate last year, who is in the Japanese section, kind of inspired me to take some different classes inside the college itself. So it's a really fun time. And now I'm going to talk about the bigger West Campus house system. So the West Campus house system is a new initiative for upper class students and first year transfers to bridge students and faculty together in a spirit of inquiry and active citizenship. The entire West Campus system consists of 5 houses focusing on creating opportunities for intellectual engagement outside of the classroom. And each house has either a new construction, barely even 15 years old, and some older Gothic style buildings. And each of those 5 houses are run by faculty members and assistant deans with support of graduate resident fellows and student assistants. So it's a very tight-knit community. It's not just all students, it's students and faculty, maybe even from your own classes coming and living with you. It's actually a really, really fun time. And outside the faculty serve as house fellows, faculty and senior administrators that are directly engaged in your experience, in your living learning experience. Each house also has a student-run council who collaborate with those staff to provide intellectual and social programming experiences. And the different types of there are many different types of social-oriented community programs in the West Campus House system, like house dinners each week, conversation hours, different talks from different speakers that visits. It's a really, really fun time. And I also wanted to talk about the types of rooms available, which depend on what building you're in. You could either have a single, super single, doubles, triples, or even multi-person suites. Each house has its own dining hall and chef, and each house sits together every week for the house dinner, like I just said. And throughout each house, you actually have your own library, your own common room, your own study room, TV lounge, communal kitchens, music practice rooms, food stores, pantries, and laundry facilities, which is what really separates the West Campus houses from the dorms, which really makes it called a house, because it is an all-encompassing experience.
Great. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Maya, we can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
Great.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Maya. I'm a sophomore and I live in a co-op on West Campus called Watermargin. And all of the co-ops are listed here. There are 8 in total, and there are a few on North Campus and a few on West Campus. And what I kind of see co-ops as is an intentional community where people come together to help each other out, to live together, and in a way that differs a lot from any other kind of system on campus for living. And I think it is often portrayed as kind of the middle ground between living alone and living in a dorm, but I don't see it that way. I live in a co-op because I want to live with other people and be involved and independent in my own food and my own chores, and really creating a space that is inclusive of lots of different kinds of people who are all choosing to live together. And so the co-ops range in size from the smallest being 10 members and the biggest 35. So they're generally pretty small. And also co-ops, some of them have meal plans like mine and some of them don't, but a lot of people in co-ops are on other co-ops meal plans or on meal plans on West Campus, so everyone will eat. And generally co-ops are a less expensive option to living in a fraternity or sorority or in a dorm, or certainly in college town or off campus, because you do share responsibility in doing your own chores, doing chores for, or helping out with chores for other people, cooking your own food, and all of the maintenance and kind of staff fees that would go towards that if you were eating at a dining hall or getting your laundry done, something like that. Also, the co-ops are self-governed, and so there is no live-in staff presence in co-ops. There are house presidents and other house officers. Some have more officers than others. Generally, the bigger co-ops will have more officers, but there is a director of off-campus cooperative and graduate living who kind of serves as an emergency contact if anything goes wrong with maintenance, or if anything goes wrong, or if you just need someone to talk to about managerial stuff. There is someone on campus that you can reach out to. And yeah, co-ops are really fun, and I really enjoy living in my co-op. I've made a lot of friends living there, and I also feel like I've grown a lot with my own independence. And So you can have a single or you can have a double, as I do in my co-op. And the process for getting into co-ops is a lot like, well, it's comparable, or it can be compared to the rush process for frats and sororities, in which people who are interested in living in co-ops can come around to the different co-ops and meet with the people who live there, be involved in some activities. I did, for my own nosy process, I was involved in a discussion about a movie, which was about some racial and identity issues. And so there are also, I'm really scattered right now, but there is also themes to some of the co-ops. Like, I live in a co-op that is centered around education and social justice. And then there's a co-op called Rory, which is only African-American women. And there are other co-ops that are also themed in similar ways. And so it's a great experience, and I would highly recommend asking me questions, because I know that was a lot of information. And yeah, that's what I have to say.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Great, Drew?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Drew Lord. I'm the president of the Interfraternity Council at Cornell. So I think the co-ops was a great lead-in to fraternities and sororities, because I think in many ways they have similar properties. So the Cornell Interfraternity Council has 35 chapters, 33 of which have physical houses. So just about everyone has a physical house. And what makes Cornell's fraternity community a little bit more unique than some other campuses is that there are several that have interests or themes to them. So we have Alpha Gamma Rho and Alpha Zeta, which are two agricultural fraternities on campus. And then another example is Alpha Lambda Mu, which is our first Muslim interest fraternity that we just welcomed on this year. We also have two co-educational fraternities, Alpha Zeta and Sigma Chi Delta. So that is where men and women and any other non-conforming gender is allowed to live in that chapter. The rest of them are single sex. So I think I can touch on three things here. The first, I think living in a fraternity house on campus gives you a great sense of the community environment. So there are either, you can either live in a single or a double, or sometimes triples, depending on how many people are living in the house at any given year. There are also common areas for people to lounge around in. A lot of them have big TV rooms, and even dining halls. We'll touch on meals in a second. Some of them have gyms, and a lot of them, about half are on North Campus, half are on West Campus. So the North Campus ones are in pretty close proximity to the fitness centers at Cornell, as are the West Campus gyms. These are very historic houses that a lot of people live in, so it's a really special thing to live in a lot of them. A lot of them have been around for over 100 years and play a special part in Cornell's history. Also academic, this community environment is also very much appreciated when it comes to an academic setting. So a lot of them have libraries where you can study with your friends or invite anyone else over to have a quiet study space available. Second point I want to touch on is it's just a great social environment, and it's a great place. It's a great option for your meal plan as well. So much like the co-ops, this is one of the less expensive options of living on campus because of that shared kind of kitchen area and maintenance costs as well, since they're being shared throughout the entire chapter. So most chapters do have private chefs, and a lot of them are open kitchens as well. So you have the option of making your own food if necessary. A lot of students that do choose to go Greek have a joint meal plan between their own chapter as well as Cornell's dining plan as well. So Cornell dining gives you a lot of options, and they tier it from, an unlimited meal plan to something down to just Big Red Box. So a lot of students choose that option. Finally, it's a good opportunity to, much like Maya was mentioning, get a sense of self-governance. When you're living in when you're living in a house, it is a really good transition between on-campus living and off-campus living, in the sense that you have a lot of responsibility living in your house, but there are also there's oversight, and there's people to hold you accountable for being responsible. So you have the opportunity to live with your peers and regulate your own rules, learn about social responsibility. There are also a lot of RAs that live in the houses, and then national organizations also oversee a lot of the rules that goes on, as well as maintenance. There's also a lot of leadership positions within your chapter. So if you are a member of your chapter, you can run for, president, vice president, risk manager, house manager, to oversee all the maintenance initiatives in your chapter, as well as other IFC initiatives as well. So that's kind of the overview of the residential and a fraternity life at Cornell. Happy to answer any questions as we move forward.
Great, thank you, Drew. All right, Sierra.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Sierra Pass. I'm the Executive Vice President of the Panhellenic Council, and I just want to take a few minutes to quickly touch on the highlights of what it's like to live in a Panhellenic chapter house on this campus. There are 13 Panhellenic chapters, and all 13 chapters do have their own chapter house. 11 of these houses are in various areas on North Campus. Most are in the Cayuga Heights neighborhood. And then the remaining 2 houses are on West Campus. In order to live in a Panhellenic chapter house, you do have to be an active member of that specific chapter. So you would have to go through either formal membership recruitment in January, and the dates are listed on the screen, or if you went through informal recruitment this fall, that would also be an option. And with these houses, they do vary in size, as Drew mentioned, similar to the IFC houses. They range anywhere between about 30 and 55 open beds in each house. And then the rooms in the houses range in size as well. So you could have a single, but typically most of the rooms are doubles or triples, with a few larger living areas that can sleep up to 6 to 8 individuals in the house. These houses, like I said, are open to Panhellenic women. Women who live in these houses tend to live in the year after they join. So if you go through recruitment in January, you would have the opportunity to live in starting in the fall of 2018. It's a great opportunity to have that sense of community that you might have really enjoyed this in your living experience this year, or you might have hoped to see and you didn't have the ability to experience it this year. You're always living with other friends. Each chapter house has its own chef that tends to cook 5 to 6 days a week. So for the most part, meals are included in the meal package that you will purchase through your organization. And then there is still the opportunity to buy into a campus meal plan as well. And that information would be through Cornell University. Some of the chapter houses have private chefs, so they go through a third-party company. And some of the houses are owned by the university, so that would go through Cornell Dining. And all of that information, depending on the specific chapter, will be made available through formal recruitment. You'll have the opportunity to see all of the houses and get a feel for where you might end up living. And as Drew kind of touched on with the IFC chapters, the Panhellenic ones do tend to also have study spaces in the house, because a lot of them are a little bit further removed from campus. So in order to ease the burden of having to walk to the library late at night, most chapters have a study space in the basement, maybe even a full library in the basement, as well as workout facilities and casual seating throughout the house. So that way, whatever you need to do, you have access to in your chapter house without having to leave. And then I will also be available to take questions about the Panhellenic housing options at the end.
Great, thank you, Sierra. All right, Mercy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mercy. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Mercy. I'm a senior and I live off campus right now, and I also work for the off-campus living office. I'll briefly talk about what it's like to live off campus and give you a few tips on the such process. To start off, I'll talk about the types of housing available. So there are a variety of housing types in the Ithaca area. For example, there are traditional complexes that have apartments with 1 to 4 bedrooms. There are also homes that have been cut into apartments from 1 to 7 units. Ithaca also has some traditional style homes offering opportunities from anywhere between 4 to 20 students to live together, and you can also choose to live or rent a room in an owner-occupied home. So living off campus can be cheaper than dorms, but it all depends on the location. College Town tends to be more on the higher side due to demand and amenities available. For example, restaurants, grocery stores. North Campus and West Campus and Outer College Town tend to be on the cheaper side, but then you might find some units that are about the same price as College Town, especially if they're much newer houses. So renting your own apartment requires you to be more responsible. It offers some real life experiences you can build on when you move into postgraduate life. So you have to manage your rent payments and other expenses that go along with renting your own place, such as Wi-Fi, cable, electricity, etc. Management and budgeting needs to be a normal part of your life when you do decide to live off campus. If you do decide to rent your own place off campus, please keep in mind that finding apartments can be a little bit complicated. And I'm going to leave you with a few things to keep in mind if you do decide to look for houses off campus. So one, make sure you do your research. You do not want to end up in a place that you cannot afford or is way off campus. So you can start by speaking to people who are renting off campus already, or come to the off-campus housing office and you'll be able to speak with one of our peer advisors. Second, make sure you have enough money when you start the process, because you will need money to cover for your security deposit, your first and last month's rent, which are required when you sign a lease. Third, you need to start your search really early so that you get minimize the stress and also get a wide range of options to look at. And while you're searching, make sure to visit the apartment so you know what you're getting. And lastly, make sure to talk to your friends who are also interested in looking for off-campus housing so that you have people to rent, you have enough people to rent and sign a lease together. And I'm also happy to answer any questions at the end of this. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Mercy. So some important things to remember as first-year students. So first-year students are guaranteed on-campus housing that is really not related to co-ops, fraternities, sororities, or off-campus, but any of our considered on-campus locations, you are guaranteed provided you follow the process and apply for housing and meet all of the deadlines. So here I have a little bit of information for you, some upcoming informational sessions that I would encourage you to attend. We do have some Q&A tables coming up November 6th and 13th. We've been sending out emails. We'll be posting on Facebook. We also have some demos coming up and informational sessions next semester, January 25th and February 21st, to learn more about kind of how the general room selection process works and how to use the system. If you are interested in participating in general room selection, there is the co-op Mosey also next semester, February 4th, 1 to 5th. So if you're interested in co-ops, that is a great way to go house to house, meet people, and actually share your interest in living there for the following year. Also, we will be doing a college town tour and information session February 25th from 12 to 3. So I would write some of this down if you're interested in attending. We also have flyers out there, as I mentioned, Facebook. Also, emails, we'll continue to email you. So there's some other important information on here about the on-campus housing process that I wanted to share. That the sign up begins January 24th through February 28th. So this is the time when you want to apply for housing. We also have some processes happening now where we have the program house application process. Those applications are live now. So if you are interested in applying for a program house, the priority deadline is coming up. It's November 14th. So what that really means is that the program house directors will be reviewing applications after that deadline, and they'll be connecting with students to let them know if they've been accepted early into the house or not. And that may or may not it depends on the house, may come into effect on February 28th, because then what will happen is everybody who has been selected into that particular program house of your program house of choice will actually come to the Robert Purcell Community Center the evening of February 28th and select your housing. And your program house directors would be in touch with you with more information later after the application deadline. So mid-December, and then there'd be more information in January. Or I'd say mid-February was when they'd probably be reaching out to you about that. So general room selection is March 12th through the 15th. Then there is another process after general room selection called the wait list, and that process is the 19th through the 27th. The wait list, I want to just touch on this briefly. We will be giving you lots more information, but it's important to remember that the wait list is really for students who are maybe considering off campus but aren't quite sure. You don't really want to participate maybe in the general room selection process because you don't want to be held, you'd be legally bound to this contract once you signed it through general room selection. So I recommend it for students who are maybe considering off campus or maybe considering fraternities and sororities, that maybe you still haven't completely decided what you want to do, but you still want to be in the running to potentially get a space on campus. The wait list is in order, so rising sophomores would have priority on the wait list, but only about 10% or less of students who actually sign up for the wait list actually receive an offer. So those are some important things to keep in mind. Let's see. So there's a couple questions here that I want to answer. So someone asked, can sophomores apply for housing on North? So yes, that's exactly what we were talking about with the program house application. As rising sophomores, you're not eligible for other housing on North, which would be
co-ops too.
And the co-ops, yeah, and the co-ops, of course. So the co-ops, is again, so the program houses and the co-ops all have their separate application processes. So any other housing on North, though, would not be available for upper level students. That is on-campus housing. There are, of course, fraternities, sororities, and off-campus properties also on North Campus to consider if you enjoy North Campus as a location. But any of the traditional first-year halls, townhouses, Dixon, all of those are first-year housing, so you would not be eligible as a rising sophomore for that housing. So there's also a question about blocking. So I didn't want to go too deep into blocking for this session, because there's a lot of other sessions coming up. For example, the Q&A demos that will cover a lot about blocking and a lot about the process. This is kind of a very introductory presentation for you. But I will tell you, as for blocking, kind of how the process works, is that when you apply for housing to participate in the general room selection process, somewhere between January 24th and February 28th, we will release time slots early March. So you will sign up, but you won't receive a time slot until early March, and your entire block. So you'll be signing up as a block, if you're interested in a block, through the housing application and through the portal. You'll be forming your blocks before you receive your time slot. So we'll go more into this, more in depth at a later time, and you can certainly visit the housing office. We're in 206 Robert Purcell Community Center, or email housing@cornell.edu. We'll also be giving you a preview booklet, and the preview booklet will be giving you lots more information and giving you an introductory piece to general room selection. So it's important to know that there are some blocking rules, and the question here is, how does blocking work, especially in relation to suites? For example, if you have a 7-person group, is there a way to apply specifically for a 7+ person suite? So the first thing I will tell you is there are not many 7-person suites at all. The vast majority of suites on West Campus, they're all in the main houses, and they're typically 5-person suites. There are some larger suites in existence. They're very rare. There's only maybe 1 or 2 7-person suites, maybe 1 8-person suite. Many times they're taken during the continued occupancy process, which is the upper level students who are able to secure housing in the houses before general room selection. Typically they're taken by then, but you're only allowed to block with up to 6 people. So it would be yourself and 5 others. So no, there's really no way that one block of students could secure a 7-person suite. Another question that came in is, if you request roommates on West Campus, are they guaranteed? So you're not really, so in this process, general room selection, you're actually logging into a system and you're selecting housing on your own. So this is a self-selection of housing. So you're not requesting roommates. In a way, you're picking a block so that you're all signing up online when you sign up for your housing beginning January 24th. You're creating a block. You're creating a group of people you want to live with. So what you would be doing then during your time slot is you would be logging into the system and selecting beds for your block, right? Your block leader, the person you've chosen to actually go into the system during your time slot, will be the person actually going in and selecting the spaces for you all as a block. So in a way, you're not really requesting your roommates, you're creating your group of people, you're creating that block you want to live with. So are they guaranteed? Are you guaranteed? So you're able to select what's available to you during your time slot. So if you have a 5-person block and you're able to select 5 beds in one house, then yes, you'd be able to live with everyone in your block. But again, we'll go into that a little bit deeper. During these, you can certainly ask more Q&A questions at the tables that we have coming up November 6th and 13th, plus the Q&As and the demos coming up next spring. I see a few more questions. So this one is, so for the lottery or the housing sign up, I see that it starts January 24th and ends February 28th. Is there any sort of priority given based on the time a student signs up, or is the priority randomized? That's a great question. It is randomized. It does not matter if you sign up January 24th or you sign up February 28th. It is random. So what will happen is the system will take every block and every group that is blocked together and randomly assign you a time slot for your entire group. Can you make a block after the time slots come out? No. Once time slots are released, blocks can no longer be formed. So blocks will need to be created by February 28th, the closing date of the housing application. And that would be the last day that blocks will be able to be formed. So again, we are coming out with a preview booklet that will answer a lot of these questions, and we do actually come out with an instructional booklet in January that will dive a little bit deeper into a lot of these more detailed questions. So as far as process goes, this is a lot of important information that's on the screen for you for on-campus housing, including the co-ops. Does anyone, I don't see any other Q&A, but does anyone, any of the attendee or viewers, attendees, have any questions specifically towards possibly Drew or Sierra for fraternities and sororities, or off-campus with Mercy, or any co-op questions for Maya, or perhaps College Town related for Chino, or West Campus for Hez? Okay, I don't see any other questions. So I want to thank all of our panelists tremendously for being here. Thank you all very, very much. Again, feel free to stop by 206 Robert Purcell Community Center. Feel free to email housing@cornell.edu. Even if you have questions that are not related to on-campus, if they're off-campus questions, or they're questions related to perhaps on-campus but co-ops or fraternity sororities, I can certainly make sure that they get to the appropriate folks to answer them for you and to help you out a little bit there. Okay, so thank you for joining us, and we'll go ahead and end this webinar. Thank you very much, panelists. It was a pleasure having you with us.